Hey guys, today I would like to talk to you about YouTube and mental health and how some YouTubers can either intentionally or unintentionally stigmatize mental health disorders. This video will be roughly split into 4 parts. Number 1, just general stigmatization online, whether or not that is intentional or unintentional. Number 2, experts and professionals on YouTube as influencers. Number 3, people who make content based on their disorders. And number 4, people who didn't originally / don't make content on their disorders whatsoever, but it's become a common discussion topic in regards to them. The first one is fairly straightforward, people simply saying things that either directly or indirectly stigmatize mental health issues. For example, the time that everybody was obsessed with calling people they didn't like sociopaths for no apparent reason, and with no understanding of what a sociopath is and how that word directly impacts people with antisocial personality disorder and makes it harder for them to get treatment and be accepted. Yeah, I have a video on antisocial personality disorder, and in my Kati Morton video I also talk about the stigmatization of antisocial personality disorder in Shane Dawson's documentary about Jake Paul. So you can watch those if you want to learn more about it. And the wild thing about that was that some people in the comments were like, oh, I wonder why she's going so hard to defend antisocial personality disorder, insinuating that I had it and therefore that's why I was defending it. No, some people just have misunderstood personality disorders, and I find it intellectually dishonest to talk about them only on a surface level without properly understanding what they are, why they're caused, and that they can be treated. And then I swear to God, I wish I had these comments still, but I just removed them because they were ridiculous. But some people even just outright said, oh, well, she must have antisocial personality disorder because that's what sociopaths do. She's trying to manipulate it and give us a false sense of security around sociopaths. No, I even said in my video that people with antisocial personality disorder can become destructive if left untreated. Because no one talks about the treatment part, do they? That's why you all think that every single person with antisocial personality disorder is out kicking kittens and setting fires and planning world domination, because you just haven't learnt about the rest of it. A much more recent example of just casually stigmatizing mental health conditions is by Weiss. I'm not going to go into the whole case. I have a video on what's gone on, and there are other videos that cover it. What I will say is, at the end of last year, Kai was accused of mistreating their former partner, and Kai's response to this was by saying that their partner was mistreating them. Not going to get into it, it's really not relevant to the point that I'm trying to make. I made my video and released it on the 15th of December, mostly just to plug Omnia's channel and making people aware of their situation. And since then, I haven't subtweeted about Kai, I haven't tweeted Kai, none of that. But Kai has been tweeting on and has now released 2 videos telling their side of the story, which is fair enough, I guess. But within some of the tweets, and within both of the videos, yes, I watched the entire 2-hour video and the 50-minute follow-up video, I believe, he keeps making disparaging comments about bipolar disorder. Here's the most recent one that I found that really just, I had to stop figuratively biting my tongue because it was getting to me. It was getting really annoying. 2nd of February 2022, which is 3 days ago from now. If I were in their position, I couldn't give an F about a YouTube channel or material possessions over stabilizing my relationship, and I have shown that doubtlessly to them every effing day. And the important part of this tweet: no one will know what it is like loving someone who is bipolar. That one sentence just has so much to unpack, and I'm going to begin with the sentence order. And Kai, I'm going to address you directly. This is not me taking one singular tweet and twisting it in the worst possible interpretation of you. You have made various comments in a very similar vein in regards to bipolar disorder. You are not the only person in the commentary community, let alone the entirety of YouTube, that has dated somebody with bipolar disorder. And it's not even necessarily just dating somebody and having a relationship in a romantic sense. Also, having family members with bipolar disorder and having friends with bipolar disorder. I am currently in a relationship with somebody with bipolar disorder who is on YouTube. And I know other YouTubers who have bipolar disorder. And in my personal life, I have friends with bipolar disorder. You aren't the only one. And I'm going to say it can be challenging to be in a relationship or have any kind of relationship with somebody who has a mental disorder. I'm not going to deny that. You are completely allowed to be affected by the negative symptoms of a mental disorder. It is completely valid to be affected by somebody else's actions and words when they are in a specific state. Bipolar disorder is a mood disorder characterized by really fast and intense mood swings. However, not everybody with bipolar disorder is the same. Some people will go from being really, really happy to really, really depressed. That's why there's such a thing as bipolar depression. Some people will go from being really, really depressed to really, really angry. But not everybody is going to be suddenly aggressive and malicious. That just isn't what bipolar disorder is. And by saying someone with bipolar disorder, you are grouping all people with bipolar disorder to what you say your ex-partner was like. And I don't know what it was like. I wasn't there, and therefore I will not be confirming or denying whether or not your experiences with your ex-partner is accurate. However, even if what you say is true, you are still talking about bipolar disorder as if it is something that needs to be dealt with and that it's a burden to have to deal with. You aren't a hero for being with somebody who has bipolar disorder. You are not doing the world a service by loving somebody with bipolar disorder. And if it were truly too hard to handle, you should have probably sat down and thought about their well-being and your well-being. You go on to talk about how you really encourage them to take their medications on time and how you encourage them to continue going to therapy. However, that's not for you to manage. You can't force people to get treatment and you can't force people to be medicated. I will say that if a GP or a professional has prescribed you a medication, try it out and see how it goes, and then if you feel like it isn't working for you, then go back and talk to your doctor about that. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a professional, I'm not going to tell you what you should do with your medication. Honestly, it is up for you to discuss with a professional. So, according to you, there were extraneous variables that impacted your experiences of being with somebody with bipolar disorder, but you don't give that context every single time you talk about bipolar disorder, and you make it sound like it's a burden. You never say explicitly that it was a burden, but the statements that you make give off that air to them. Please stop talking about bipolar disorder. Every time you open your mouth about it, you do more damage than good. Thank you. I just wanted to put that out there because it goes over that language in regards to mental health is extremely important. You have to be accurate when talking about these things. Please make sure that you are accurate before opening your mouth about it. Now let's move on to professionals on YouTube. People who are psychologists, psychiatrists and therapists who happen to have a platform. This causes some problems. Let's talk about Kati Morton. Now, everybody knows I'm not a fan of Kati Morton. She copyright struck my video, and for the rest of eternity, I will have a grudge against her for that. Morton. Ironically enough, in the video that she copyright struck, which has been reinstated, by the way, you can go and watch that now, I spoke about how she did a video with Eugenia Cooney talking about 5150s. That in itself isn't a problem. Talking about those experiences aren't a problem, and nothing she actually said in the video was a problem. However, in some of the comments, they pointed out that Kati Morton had prior knowledge of what happened to Eugenia, so when she was asking questions she already knew the answers to, it appeared to be disingenuous. Other people said that Kati was in therapy mode and she was being a professional on this matter. I don't quite understand this, because this is the problem when you are a professional online and then you go and talk to other influencers. You already have prior knowledge of them and they may already have prior knowledge of you. So when you go into therapy mode, it's automatically unethical. It did come off as disingenuous when Kati didn't bring up the fact that she had prior knowledge, and people can argue, well, that wasn't the point of the video, but it's definitely disingenuous to do so. And what happens when you become somebody like Kati Morton with 1 million subscribers and your patients might already know who you are? That was the problem with the Jake Paul documentary. She was meant to observe Jake Paul, but she already had prior knowledge of him, so how can she observe him, especially without his consent? And therein lies the problem when professionals such as therapists do have social media platforms. Where does the line end? Are you simply stating your opinion on something, or are you giving an informed professional opinion on something? Are you simply having a conversation with another influencer, or should you, as a professional, be intervening and helping somebody who the internet believes deserves help because it's part of your duty? Now, I dislike Kati Morton for a number of reasons, but this part about generally having therapists become influencers is an unanswered question for me. It's very nuanced, and there's many different things people could bring up. I'm not sure if it's a good or a bad thing, especially if people like Kati Morton are giving out some really good information on mental illnesses, but also stigmatizing others. Antisocial personality disorder. And then there's the problem with parasocial relationships. I'll often see in Kati Morton, for example, in her comment section, people be like, hey, I think I have this thing, I've messaged you. And while Kati might not reply to those messages, the idea that some commenters think this person can help them and it's much easier than going to see somebody separately because they have direct contact to them is concerning. Because in reality, none of the people that are commenting on Kati's videos should she ethically be able to book a session with. It goes back to the idea of not having prior knowledge of your therapist or of your patients. It should be a therapeutic relationship. There should be no parasocial relationship involved. There should be no other relationship behind that. It's a medical type relationship. And that's the conundrum here. While these people may well know what they're talking about in many instances and may be able to share knowledge that helps people understand mental disorders more, they're also opening up themselves as a public figure. The next topic that I would like to discuss is mental health influencers and, by extension, mental health online communities. There is nothing inherently wrong in creating content based on issues that you go through. Everybody does this, whether it be mental health disorders or life problems, and in some way it's really good because you can share your own experiences to other people who may be going through the same thing and may relate to you, and how you solve those problems they can take and apply to their own lives and better their own lives. The issue herein is having a figurehead for mental health disorders, and this is for various reasons. The first is it is a detriment to the person who is the figurehead, because I feel as if sometimes they are reduced to their mental health disorders. I never want to be known as the girl with PTSD, or the girl with anxiety, or the girl with depression, because that isn't me. While I have those disorders and have to deal with them and treat them myself, I want to be known for enjoying the things that I do, which is talking about ideologies, history, psychology, and commentating on current news. I don't want to be known for my mental health disorders. And let's say the creator is comfortable being associated with and being known for their mental health conditions. When they become a figurehead, they indirectly set a precedent for all people with the same conditions as them. And sometimes it doesn't matter how many disclaimers they make saying not all people with X disorder are the same, the association will already be made. It's further complicated when there's a community of creators that have the same disorder. While all of their voices and perspectives are valid and important, those with more subscribers or followers than the others will be listened to the most. It's just how things work, and it unintentionally creates a hierarchy within the community. Take the situation with DissociaDID as an example. Many creators felt that they didn't speak for the DID community, and yet people will listen to them because they have 1 million subscribers. It created a monopoly within the DID community wherein DissociaDID had the final say based on their numbers, and it was much harder for those with fewer subscribers to have their voices and opinions heard, and perhaps even corrections to what DissociaDID was saying. This is a problem that cannot necessarily be fixed. With the existence of influencers who base their content around mental health disorders they have, there will always be the more popular creators. It's hard to know exactly how everybody can have an equal say in a community wherein popularity is the most important thing. I think the DID community is a unique example because in my lifetime I've never seen anything like the PTSD community. I think it's strange. I feel like it speaks to what the DID community presented within the condition, specifically DissociaDID. It could be argued that DissociaDID did intentionally or unintentionally romanticize the idea of having dissociative identity disorder, with certain comments saying, "Wow, this is so cool and interesting." It's really not cool and interesting. It's not a quirk to have a mental health condition caused by trauma. It's not this awesome new trend, you know. It's a condition that you need treatment and help for. This also most likely has something to do with media representation of DID. I am not putting this responsibility all on DissociaDID's shoulders alone. But then there's the added fact of unity within neurodivergent people. The feeling as if you have to support a person because they have the same or similar disorders than you. Having to support somebody even if they have questionable beliefs or statements or have done problematic things in the past purely because they're the only representation you have and you have to settle for it. And then there's the discussion point of mental health online communities as a whole. Not necessarily simply having figureheads, but people who come together and talk to each other based on the fact that they have mental health conditions. Online support groups, if you will. Now, it is absolutely fine and really good to have people that you can confide in and talk to about your struggles with mental health. People go and do it in support groups in real life. People have talking therapy in groups. This is something you can attend and can be helpful when talking about your mental health struggles and working towards recovery. And if recovery is not possible, then management. But then there's the more insidious side to these online support groups. Are you really talking to these people because they're your friends and you genuinely connect to them? Or is the only common denominator between all of you the fact that you have a mental health condition? Is that truly a basis of real friendship? And then there's the added idea of people being in those support groups who may be detrimental. For example, when BeckieJBrown was in the Trichotillomania support group spouting that recovery isn't possible and we're all damned forever. That's really not something that people should hear if they're looking for help with a mental health condition. There may be people in these support groups that shouldn't be there and can make things worse. And then there's the evolution of support groups that aren't support groups. Groups that are in fact based on having a mental health condition but intend for members to stay that way. For example, pro-AN. So somebody could be looking online for help with a mental health condition and accidentally stumble into a pro-mental health condition group. And then there are mental health groups that spout really harmful ideas, such as self-diagnosis. If you don't know why I don't like self-diagnosis, here's a video on it. It doesn't actually help you. You can't get treatment based on a self-diagnosis, and it only really serves to kind of give yourself an answer to what you're looking for, and it might not even be the answer. There are so many disorders that have overlapping symptoms. If doctors can't get it right all the time, I'm pretty sure an untrained person can easily misdiagnose themselves. You can watch that video for full context. To sum up this section, while I do think it is important for you to do your own research and be proactive in treatment and management of mental health disorders, be really vigilant when reading information online and be very careful when joining online groups. Make sure you aren't sucked into something that can be counterproductive to your own health. The next thing I want to talk about are creators who never initially made content or still to this day do not make content in regards to their own mental health, but it's still a common discussion point when talking about those creators. I can generally place these content creators in 3 categories. The first category are content creators who have viewers that are very concerned based on the fact that they are displaying symptoms of a mental health disorder. Number 2, people whose viewers make fun of them for having symptoms of a mental health disorder. And number 3, YouTubers who either fake symptoms of a mental health disorder or play up their own symptoms of mental health disorders that they do have, primarily for views and attention. Now, many of these creators that I'm about to mention can fit into more than one category, and I will not be speculating on their mental health. I am only going off of what has been confirmed and is publicly available about these creators. Eugenia Cooney is a clear-cut example of the first category. A person who is displaying symptoms of a mental health disorder and their viewers are extremely concerned about this. Numerous creators over the years have covered Eugenia in a bid to, quote, help her, unquote. I already have a video that goes over the courage of Eugenia Cooney and some of the allegations that have been levied against her and why it's not helpful, and why some of the allegations are outright ridiculous. The second category is more complex. Creators such as Nikocado, Avocado, Amberlynn, Reid are examples of people who didn't necessarily start out their channels based around a mental health disorder, but it's very much got to a point where people are clicking and watching based on their behaviours which are caused by their mental health disorders. Amberlynn Reid has stated that she has been diagnosed with BDD, and I believe Nikocado Avocado has also stated the same about himself. The problem is that there are plenty of things that you can criticise these creators about that have absolutely nothing to do with their bodies and nothing to do with their BDD. I myself did cover Amberlynn Reid at one point on my channel, and my main problem wasn't necessarily the fact that she was overweight and had BDD, although I did make low blows about it, and I do apologise for that. It was 2 years ago when my channel was extremely new, it was the first content I ever made, and I have since learnt about making comments such as the ones that I made beforehand. They could also, however, be tied into the third category, amping up their own disorders for views, because Nikocado Avocado clearly clickbaits on his channel, and Amberlynn Reid has been accused of trolling. The next 2 creators that I'm going to briefly mention could also go in either category, and I'm honestly not sure. Trisha Paytas and Gabbi Hanna have also displayed symptoms of mental health disorders on their channels. Trisha Paytas is known for crying on her kitchen floor and made some DID videos that were interesting. Gabbi Hanna has also recorded some questionable videos as well. And just like Amberlynn Reid and Nikocado Avocado, they have been made fun of based on it. I'm definitely not going to say that any of these creators do not have problems with their mental health or do not have the conditions that they have stated that they have. The clickbait, however, does suggest that they find value in presenting them in shocking ways. There is one creator, however, I can say for sure has faked symptoms of a mental health disorder because they admitted to it. Glitter Forever 17 admitted to faking a mental breakdown because they saw that their channel was in decline. With the first category, I know it's super hard when you see people that are obviously suffering, and because of parasocial relationships, you feel the need to do something about it. Quite frankly, for examples such as Eugenia Cooney, the internet has done all it can, and further bringing it up to her is not productive and can possibly worsen her condition, as I talked about in my video about her. With the second one, these people can be crappy people, and they can possibly even go into the third category of flaunting it for views. But honestly, it's so hard to tell because of blending personas with real life, blending their trolling personas with them being actual people. I can't really comment on it. If anyone... And with people like Glitter Forever 17 who outright admitted to faking a mental health breakdown, I don't think I can properly articulate in words how damaging that is to people who actually go through those things. You just give ammunition to people to say that when somebody's going through a mental health breakdown, that they're doing it for attention. It is so harmful. I would elaborate more on this section, but again, the words just escape me. Just don't do this, maybe? Mental health disorders are things that people go through, that people have to deal with. And just appropriating those symptoms for attention is despicable, honestly. I think I've covered everything that I wanted to say in this video. Many of the things that I've talked about are discussion points, and therefore if you have any thoughts or feelings on these, please let me know down in the comments below. If there's anything that I missed that you think should be brought up, you can comment there too. I want to thank you guys for listening to me, and I hope you are having a really good day. Take care of your mental health. If you feel like you are going through something or that you possibly have an undiagnosed condition, please go and see a GP or a therapy service to get help. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.